That guy from the Dos Equis commercials wears pajamas of this man, the real-life most interesting man in the world. He's the great Al Michaels!
High jump. Boys,
these guys...
this is like a $23 set. Look at this. You guys come out here. They took some old school desks, right?
Sit
by the
down.
way, do not... I got to slide in here. Coming off an epidural. Anyway, so the bottom... So don't shoot me too close. It's the first time ever I've not shaved for television.
Okay.
Because this is really a radio show, as we know. Right? And so I look like a slob. I have no makeup because that's not in your budget either.
No, it's not.
Because he takes all the money. We know that.
Yes, absolutely.
And if Josh wore his Vikings hat, and I saw that, I was in the kitchen watching, and then I watched on Slingbox in the car down here. Kings.
I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, what did you think of Josh Duhamel's arm?
I thought it was outstanding, and it was mild. That's an old commercial. But yeah, man, you know, you could see where at Minot, Why Not, he was like one of the greatest of all time. He
was kind of a Kaepernickian type throw there.
Oh, really? Very good. Not a Whedonian?
No.
Yeah, because like I said, Jerry Jones, if Jerry had seen Josh's arm, he's liable to be playing on
He
Sunday
might
Night
have
Football.
had a better arm or as good an arm as Brandon Whedon. Okay, so are you serious about being on Sports Jeopardy?
I am. Yeah. First of all, I got to find out what Crackle is. I got to find that.
Yes. And once
and
you
that's
do,
on Apple TV or something like that.
Yes, and Hulu, and yes, you go in there. Comedians in cars getting coffee. Jerry Seinfeld.
Correct. I saw that one. I saw he did one with Colbert and all of that.
Yes.
It went through Connecticut. Went through sort of like where maybe it was Rye or Tarrytown or someplace near where you are.
Yeah.
Sort of across the border.
Somewhere there. So if I put you against Costas,
right,
and
good match.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, cage match.
What would be your best category?
Lacrosse. No. So wait a minute. The categories are the different sports?
Well, we don't know what's going to be up there. It would be like it's Sports Jeopardy, so we don't know if it's going to be.
It's not popular culture, though, is it?
No.
Good.
It's just.
Costas would kill me in popular culture.
It's just sports.
He understands all that stuff, and it's like Dennis Miller used to make references to movies. I had no idea what the movie was, much less the character.
But when you did that with Dennis Miller,
correct.
So you never knew, like there were times when he would say Albino and then he would give a reference and you had no idea.
Well, it wasn't that I had no idea, but I would have an idea, but I wouldn't know. So one night we're doing a scene set and he says something about Sylvia Plath. He even pronounces her name correctly, which is good. Everybody goes Plath, but he got it. And of course I knew who Sylvia was, but I felt like my head was in a bell jar after he said that because I'm going, what the hell does that mean? But it would sound good. I mean, Dennis had, a way of saying things where even if you didn't know, you couldn't feel like a dummy and say, I don't know. So you had to go, ha, 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 yeah, it's great.
So you mastered fake laughter.
Well, I wouldn't say, I got to tell you, that was the hardest thing I had to do. I loved working with Dennis. He was a great guy. We had a ton of fun. And by the way, Dan Faust was also in the booth. I loved Dan is a major mention, a tremendous guy, and still does a great work with Iron Eagle on CBS. But the whole thing was, when Dennis would say something, if I had a choice of either not laughing at all, where the audience might say, "Oh, Michaels hates him," or being a hyena. So I had to dance that dance between being a hyena and not wanting him in the booth. So I had to ration my laughter. It's almost all of these sitcoms where you've got like 83 canned things that you can play, everything from uproarious to that sort of thing. So I had to think about that in the middle of trying to do a football game. But apart from that, no problem.
You also that's the thing. That's how tough that is no matter what is said around you, you have to bring it back. And that transition from what somebody just said to now I got to get it back.
Right. It's kind of like somebody said to me one time. It's like you're piloting a plane. And we would go through some turbulence or a thunderstorm, but the pilot shouldn't be in the bathroom at that point. I mean, you got to come back and go to a different altitude or something.
And then you get somebody like Chris Collinsworth who doesn't take you too far for you to have to come back. I mean, that's a great luxury for a play-by-play guy.
I'll tell you this: Chris Collinsworth may be the best analyst who ever did any sport. Now I know he's my bud on Sunday Night Football. We've worked 7 years together now, which is like, what? Yeah. I mean, that's as long as I worked with John Madden. I mean, John was iconic. John kind of reinvented how you do analysis on television. There was nobody better, during John's time. Chris Collinsworth sees things. I mean, I've seen a lot of sports and a ton of football through my lifetime, and he'll go places where I'm going, whew, to myself as he's doing it. That's fabulous. I mean, nobody sees that, and nobody has the ability to explain it the way Chris does.
But the difference between John Madden and Chris Collinsworth is what? I mean,
Well, I mean, Chris, John had been there for a long time and doing it. When John and I got together in 2002, John had been on the air for 20 years. So everybody knew who John was. Everybody knew that, John had the great sound effects. Everybody knew what John's career was. John had the video game at that point. So he came with, people knew who John was. And we had a blast. And I had the last 7 years of John's broadcasting career. With Chris, people had heard him, from time to time, especially on Football Night in America and other pregame shows. But I'm not sure they knew what to expect. But what he does is he goes to places that are interesting. You don't need a clinic. If you wanted a clinic, Chris could coach. There's no question. He could coach. He could officiate. He knows everything about everything. But you have to make it interesting to the audience. You can't be talking about, double moves, a collapsing zone. Why? After a while, people are going, stop it already. So Chris has a way of understanding. He understands broadcasting. The really, really good analysts are not the guys who knew everything about what happened on the field. There are a ton of those. They understand the essence of broadcasting. Madden, Collinsworth, Tim McCarver, who I worked with years. They never thought of themselves as ex-coaches, ex-players, or whatever. They thought of themselves as broadcasters. That's the key.
Sometimes the ability to make something complex simple is what goes from good to great. That I can see that. I don't want to have you get inundated with what the terminology is as much as this is what it means to you when you're watching.
Correct. And there's nobody better right now than, there's some really good analysts, but to me, Chris is he gets it. He gets what the audience would be interested in knowing. And we can go 18 million different places. We have any number of graphics we can put up. We have any number of statistics. What we try to do, and you know this as well as anybody with our producer, Fred Godelli, make it relevant. We have 18 million things we can tell you, show you, or whatever, but unless it's germane to the game at that particular point, forget about it. Some of the greatest stories I've ever had wound up on, in effect, the cutting room floor because that guy wasn't a part of the game. Yeah. There's nothing better than having a great story and then the guy makes a big play or he's very important inside the game itself. That's good because then you're able to connect the dots the way the audience enjoys it.
We've been doing this for so long. You'll watch somebody come into a sport and then we'll see them leave. And you see Kobe Bryant now, 20 years. We're watching Peyton Manning. You see kind of the embryonic stages and then you see the twilight. And we see the twilight before they see the twilight. That's why Kobe fascinates me because we know what he was. Does he know what he is really the key. I
think I read the quotes the other day where he said, "I suck." Not me, him. But after they went 0-3, I've watched Kobe's whole career. Had a chance to do the NBA for a couple of years. To me, I didn't get a chance to cover Michael Jordan, but Kobe's right there. One of the greatest players of all time. Phenomenal to watch, clutch. Yeah, we hate to see guys, ride off into the sunset like Joe Namath, in a Rams uniform, Johnny Unitas in a San Diego uniform, Willie Mays, the way that career ended. And it's not that we think about that part of it, but, very few guys. I was thinking about this with Peyton the other night. The guy who brought him to Denver, John Elway, that's riding off into the sunset perfectly. Yes. You win a Super Bowl, and then you win another Super Bowl, and that's like – but remember, until that point, the rap, as it were, on John, he didn't win a Super Bowl. Yeah. And then John went out and he won 2 of them. So, his career ended perfectly. I'd like to see that happen to Peyton. I was thinking about, the other night when they're 6-0 and everybody thinks he's playing like they're 0-6. But I don't know, you probably saw unless you were asleep during the first half. But Chris and I were talking about, we had a very interesting meeting with Peyton the other day where I put him into the third person, and he started talking about his performance this year, but as somebody else. And it was very revealing, extremely.
Well, you're also, I'm curious as a broadcaster of what do you say that you can see something different than Peyton Manning? do you leave it up to Chris as the analyst to say that? But you've seen all of his games. You've covered him, and now you see him where he's not who he once was. How much do you bring that up?
Well, you look, we can see it, and the audience can see it too. If you follow football, and I know the whole thing with Peyton has been through 6 weeks. Oh, he doesn't look like he used to look, and he'd be the first to admit that. And his arm is no good anymore. So he comes out the other night and he hits Thomas on a deep throw. So his arm looked really good the other night. Now, if you can't throw at all, then you begin to wonder, is the guy hurt or whatever. But I thought the other night, and I said something toward the end of the game where Peyton is too classy a guy to say shut up to his critics or anybody else. But what he said the other night basically was shut up. Through his play, it was like, hey. So all of a sudden now Peyton is thought of a little differently. Everybody thinks, okay, well, look, you can't play any better than Brady. But what Brady does, as you know, is he 2 seconds after he gets the snap, he throws.
Yeah.
So it's not that Tom is throwing downfield that much, but their offense makes it look as if, Brady is, and he is. I'm not saying makes it look, but he is fantastic. Peyton's running a different kind of offense right now. Now they're blending it, with Kubiak's run-oriented game. He's taking every snap now out of the pistol or the shotgun as opposed to under center. So they've got a nice little blend going there.